Imagine this. It's 2006. A young couple, Mark and Marianne, move into a quiet terraced house in South Shields, England, with their 3-year-old son. They're excited to start a new chapter in their lives. The house is ordinary, the street is normal, and everything seems perfect. But perfect things have a way of breaking. It all started subtly. A little tap here, a soft knock there. The kind of sounds you dismiss as the house settling or the wind rattling the windows. Annoying, but harmless. But then the sounds got louder. Doors didn't just creak. They slammed shut with violent force, even when there was no draft. Heavy wooden chairs would scrape across the floor in the middle of the night, as if someone was dragging them. The family tried to find logical explanations. Bad wiring? Old plumbing? A prankster? But the explanations were running out fast. The activity soon centered on their young son's room. His toys, once sources of comfort and joy, became instruments of fear. One evening, a small, brightly colored toy dog was sent flying across the room, narrowly missing Marianne's head. It wasn't just a gentle toss. It was launched with incredible force, hitting the far wall with a loud bang. There were no strings, no hidden mechanisms. It was as if an invisible hand had picked it up and thrown it. The family's fear began to grow, turning their home into a place of constant anxiety. They were always on edge, waiting for the next inexplicable event, and it always came. One morning, they walked into their son's bedroom to find his rocking horse, a heavy, solid wooden toy, perched precariously on top of a 7-foot-tall wardrobe. How did it get there? They didn't even own a ladder tall enough. Their son was only 3. He couldn't possibly have lifted it. The room was freezing cold, despite the heating being on, and the air felt thick, heavy, and oppressive. It was a clear message. Whatever was in their house was strong, and it was just getting started. This wasn't just a poltergeist that moved things. It seemed to have a malevolent intelligence. It knew what would scare them the most. One night, the couple woke up to a sight that would haunt their nightmares forever. On the floor, by the foot of their bed, sat their son's stuffed bunny rabbit. It was propped upright, and in its soft, plush paw, it was holding a sharp kitchen knife. The blade was pointed directly at them as they slept. This wasn't just witnessed, it was documented. They took a photograph, a chilling piece of evidence that this was something far beyond a simple haunting. The entity was now making direct, terrifying threats. The physical attacks began soon after. Mark, the father, would wake up with deep, painful scratches on his back. 3 long, parallel claw marks, as if from a large animal, drawn with enough force to break the skin and leave him bleeding. He had been sound asleep, his wife next to him. There was no rational explanation. Their son became increasingly distressed. He would cry in the night, screaming that a man was in his room. He described a tall, dark figure, a shadow with no face that would stand in the corner and whisper his name. The family was living in a constant state of terror, trapped in their own home with an invisible tormentor. Then, things took a bizarre and modern turn. The entity started using their own technology against them. They would receive threatening text messages from their own phones, while the phones were right there in their hands. The messages were chilling. "I'm going to hurt him," one read, a clear threat against their child. "You are all going to die." Imagine the horror of seeing a message like that appear on your own screen, sent from your own number, while you're holding the device. It was a new level of psychological warfare. The entity wasn't just in their house. It was in their pockets. Desperate, the family reached out for help. They contacted paranormal investigators Mike Hallowell and Darren Rickson. These weren't wide-eyed believers looking for ghosts. They were skeptical researchers who approached cases with a critical eye, always seeking logical explanations first. But what they witnessed in that house in South Shields defied all logic. They saw objects thrown across rooms by an unseen force. They recorded disembodied growling voices on their audio equipment in completely empty hallways. They watched in disbelief as toys would slowly slide into the air, hovering for a moment as if lifted by invisible hands, before crashing back down to the floor. The entity seemed to revel in the attention. It was almost like it was performing for the investigators, wanting credit for the chaos it was creating. It behaved like an intelligent, strategic attacker, systematically targeting the family's deepest fears. It used personal items, the son's toys, and sharp objects to maximize the psychological impact. The investigators observed a clear pattern. The more frightened the family became, the stronger and more violent the paranormal activity grew. It was as if it was feeding on their emotional energy, drawing power from their terror. Some called it a demon, a truly malevolent non-human entity. Others theorized it was a poltergeist that was unconsciously fueled by the family's own stress and fear. Whatever it was real, and it was dangerous. The haunting reached its terrifying peak one night. The parents were woken by their son's frantic screams. They ran to his room to find him being dragged from his bed by an invisible force. He was being pulled by his ankles, his small body scraping across the carpet while he screamed in absolute terror. There was no one else in the room. This wasn't a story or a nightmare. It was a physical assault witnessed by his horrified parents. When they managed to get to him, they found red, angry marks on his legs where invisible fingers had gripped him with incredible force. This was the final straw. The family knew they couldn't stay. They packed their belongings and fled the house, hoping to leave the nightmare behind. But the horror followed them. The activity continued in their new home. It wasn't the house that was haunted, it was their son. The entity, whatever it was, had attached itself to the child. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it faded away. The attacks lessened, the objects stopped moving, and the voices fell silent. There was no final confrontation, no explanation, no closure. They never found out what the entity was or what it wanted. They never knew why it chose them or why it finally left. Some people believe it's not gone for good, that it's merely dormant, sleeping, waiting for the right conditions, waiting for the fear to return. The South Shields Poltergeist remains one of the most well-documented and terrifying cases of a modern haunting. It involved physical violence, psychological warfare, and the use of technology, all seemingly orchestrated with a chilling purpose. This isn't folklore from centuries ago. This was a real family, a real child, and a very real terror that remains to this day completely unexplained. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes the things we can't see are the most frightening things of all. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as chilling as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true stories of the unexplained. And let us know in the comments, what do you think was tormenting this family? Stay safe and check your text messages. You never know who might be sending them.